Good evening, everyone, and welcome. Welcome to the second edition of the Live Debate Club around Bundle. And we're going to talk about sports because at the end of the day, we're all craving for sports. It's one of those industries within the wider media and entertainment industry that is thriving. Having said that, I think as an end user, we would love to have our say and not necessarily let the big guys decide on how our favorite sports are being packaged. So this is why I've brought here today amazing folks, and I'm gonna have them introduce themselves because you don't necessarily know all of them, and you should follow them on LinkedIn, subscribe to their newsletter, YouTube, podcast, you name it. Some many cool new friends you can make. So I'm gonna get started with you, Sébastien, fellow Frenchman. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure, Sébastien Ledoux, based just outside of Paris, spent 25 years working in his business, started as a broadcaster and then moved progressively more towards tech business and all the cool stuff, leading all the streaming, digital and social media operation for sports at Canal Plus. Left Canal Plus in early 2023 to do a lot of cool things around sports tech, helping many startups in the space.
Nice. Danielle, do you want to go afterwards?
Yeah, thanks, Marion. So I'm Dan Monahan. I'm a senior research manager at Ampere Analysis. So Ampere is a data research and analytics company across the media, sports, and video games sectors. And I work within our consumer research team predominantly. So we run annual and biannual consumer surveys globally, tracking media consumption trends and sports habits and consumption trends. And I also work closely with our sports media rights team as well. So we have a database of over 10,000 sports rights deals globally, as well as lots of other cool stuff.
Nice. I think you're a serious contender for today because you're sitting on a lot of data. Peter, you're up next.
Yeah, hi everybody. Pete Scott in New York. I don't have an accent like the other these funny debaters, so straight English, so you don't have to have any problems or worries. You might need a translator for the rest of them, but for me, straight English. I was at Warner Brothers Discovery for a long time and ran the last part of my career emerging media and innovation. So I was that guy trying to figure out where the company needed to go in distribution of content, either sports, entertainment, and news. About a year and a half ago, I spun out a company with two fellow co-founders in Israel called Play Anywhere, and we're sort of introducing a new media rights category that we're calling interactive rights. We think it's a new set of rights that leagues and IP holders can grant their distributors and rights holders to create new revenue streams, engagement, first-party data opportunities, and new revenues. So really, really happy to be here and excited to walk you through what I think is the best bundle comparatively to these other folks that are here, and looking forward to getting your feedback as well.
Awesome. Carlo.
Hello, hi, I'm Carlo De Marchis. I've been forever at the intersection of sport media, technology, and innovation. Work for a company called Delta Thread that some of you may know, as Chief Technology Officer, Chief Product Officer, Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Evangelist eventually. And in the last 2 years, I've been a guy with a scarf, random personal, professional brand with which I have a newsletter. I create amount of content that sometimes is too much for people, I guess. But I'm advising to company, Kling and Ably. I'm also working with Buzz My Videos. And I enjoy normally having other tell their stories. And this time I'm a bit on stage myself too.
Awesome. And so everyone, hopefully by now, you know me, Marion Ranchet. I'm the founder of The Local Act and Streaming Made Easy. If we go to the next slides, if you're not a subscriber to the newsletter, consider signing up. There's a beautiful QR code here. Next, then I also started YouTube. That's funny business. It's a tough one, but I think it's super interesting. You will actually find the webinar this week onto YouTube, so consider signing up. And so I've been organizing more and more webinars. If we look at what we've done in the past, if you can go next. We actually had a debate a few months ago, and this guy that you're seeing on the right won with a master Google bundle. Today we're focusing on sports, and so who's going to be, you know, the winner amongst the contenders that you're seeing today? Let's see. So, without further ado, we're going to move on to our first pitch, and I'm giving the floor to Daniel.
Thank you very much, Marion. And so when we came to this, the first thing that came to my mind is, you know, as a fan of football who lives in the UK, amongst, you know, the Premier League being by far the biggest media rights value property in the UK, and the same holding for lots of other European countries, which we can see on the slide here. And I thought, actually, how many sports fans in Europe don't follow the beautiful game? So who falls outside of this kind of crazy sport that drives the vast majority of rights revenue in Europe? We can see here, and this is from Ampere's Sport Consumer Survey, which surveys around 26,000 sports fans globally, including over 7,500 across these big 5 European markets. This ranges from around a quarter of sports fans in Spain up to a third in the UK, and around 39% of sports fans in France who don't follow football. And go to the next slide, please. And so I decided to drill down into my home market for the UK in a little bit more detail. And I thought, if they're not following football, what other sports are they following instead? And so for the purposes of starting to form this bundle, I've looked outside some of the sports which are either quadrennial or biannual, such as the Olympics, or where the sport is pretty much exclusively on free-to-air, so like Tour de France, for example, in the UK. So I'm looking outside of the Olympics and Tour de France for this purpose. And these sports on paid services, so again, excluding free-to-air, account for nearly a fifth of total rights spend in the UK market. And so to the left of the chart, you can see tennis and cricket come out on top, and then moving down to the more niche sports, that's around 8 to 10% of non-football fans. And this represents, we estimate, around 7 million, just over 7 million people in the UK who follow at least one of these sports. And then looking to the right of the chart, or the right of the slide on the pie chart, nearly half of these fans follow 2 or more of those sports shown on the chart. And by our estimates, this represents over 3 million people in the UK. So a more niche audience than the wider football audience, but still a sizable group of consumers. Next slide, please. And so what do they look like? So the group is relatively young, so over-indexing for age 35 and under, and therefore an attractive acquisition target for the platforms and the advertisers on those platforms. They're watching almost 3 hours of live sport per week on average. And again, this is without following football. But we also see that half of them report pirating sport on a monthly basis, and cost-related reasons are the primary driver for piracy, with 48% of those pirates citing cost-related concerns. And so is our non-football group potentially being priced out of sports due to the presence of those costly football rights, driving up the prices of subscriptions? Next slide, please. And with fragmentation present in the UK and across other markets, as I'm sure we're all familiar with, accessing everything can be somewhat confusing and a costly exercise. And so the price to access those 12 sports on that chart from earlier across Now TV, being Sky's OTT service, the Discovery Plus Premium tier, which contains TNT Sports, the Zone and Premier Sports. So the cost of all of those services comes in at over £80 per month. And then looking at the current subscription uptake on the right-hand side in the pie chart, the majority of our non-football group take either none of those services or just one, leaving a large addressable audience to try and convert with a more attractive package. And next slide, please. This brings us on to our bundle. So for those who are not fans of the beautiful game, we present the Also Beautiful Games bundle, where people find all of these other sports even more beautiful than football, with the bundle priced at £24.99 per month to access a host of amazing sports events shown here. And so this bundle allows those rights holders to continue to compete on football, which drives the majority of their rights spend, but potentially look to collaborate on attracting those who may be priced out of the all-in packages. Thank you.
Nice, nice. I would say almost mic drop. I knew this would be painful given the amount of data that you're sitting on. Can I ask you something? Now Sports, Discovery, DAZN, Premier Sports, if those were taken separately, how much would that be? Is it the 80%?
So yeah,
referencing?
it's just
So that's the
just over
80%.
£80. Yeah, £80 to £85 in that ballpark.
Okay, and so how would that work in the real life? Like the price point I get, but how can those companies bring a subset of, because that would be a subset of their rights, right? So
It would, yeah,
that
it
would
would.
mean that each of these guys have to build a non-football tier, and then this non-football tier would be packaged with the other.
Yeah, so I guess there's a couple of potential options for it. So we've seen Venue trying to launch, do we say, in the US. Obviously, there's been the legal hurdles that they're currently going through, but there is the option to have that kind of standalone service called the Also Beautiful Games product, of course, as we said here, or potentially one of them acting as the gatekeeper to kind of feed in those different streams. So we've seen that with the Zone across some different D2C products like with the NFL Game Pass and FIBA Pass and things like that. And Amazon, which isn't featured here, have obviously got their aggregation capabilities as well. So I guess there's a couple of options there.
So actually, someone in the chat is saying this is the British version of Venue Sports, which is perhaps the most, well, how can I say? They're being sued, right? And not everyone is putting a lot of hope in their ability to launch and actually make a difference in that market. So my question to you is that the same, or is that is that better? Don't you think that perhaps the same way that Venue is actually a concern for folks like Fubo, etc., that this would be so appealing that this could hurt the rest of the distribution partners that these guys get on a standalone basis?
Possibly. Correct me if I'm wrong. To my understanding, there hasn't quite been the same level of a Fubo or similar in the US who have been trying to take the kind of skinny bundles, so to speak, and being prevented from doing so, which they're now saying, those rights holders are kind of doing the same kind of thing themselves when they've been prevented from doing that. So I'm not sure it's quite the same landscape in that respect. And there is still the potential for this to go alongside some of the wider aggregation plays we've seen, with pay TV platforms aggregating different services into their kind of packages, and acting as those gatekeepers for wider services coming into one. So I think there's still the potential for that as well to get around that.
Nice.
To play Daniel's advocate, he doesn't bring football, the main sport in Europe, into his bundle, which is a big difference compared to Venue that had most of the most dominant properties in the US outside of very few.
Sure. Yeah, of course. That's more than half of total US rights spend would be going into that bundle, including across NFL and NBA less so with TNT losing the rights. But yeah, this is targeted at more niche sports fans. It's not chasing the big money across football. It's trying to target those who maybe would like to access these things and are currently being priced out potentially. And so yeah, that in itself is arguably less of a concern.
I think if we go back to the data you showed before, it's geared indirectly. It's geared towards the 35 under. So in terms of distribution, where would you go? Would it be like, standalone, on the Samsung of the world, or would you go to the pay TV guy, the Sky, the Virgin Media, to actually have the opportunity to sell this as well? Which someone says in the chat that, actually no one wants to do a la carte like that. And yeah, that's quite true. Even if it's in the interest of the end consumer.
Yeah, no, sure. I would advocate for as wide a distribution as possible, given that it is already quite a niche audience. And as I was saying, and as you mentioned, it does over-index for younger consumers who fall into this group, but there's still 55% over 35 as well. So, okay, they're more likely to be within that age cohort, but that doesn't exclude older demographics as well, who might be more likely to do it via a pay TV package. So I think I would advocate for as wide as possible. So offering potentially as a standalone, and then also seeing what can be done with those partnerships in addition.
Nice. Anyone else amongst the debaters wants to chime in?
Yeah, how do you make money on 24.99?
Well, the cost of the rights is it's roughly proportionate to the cost of the cost of the rights that would be within that package as a proportion of, like, if you take out the football, which is driving the majority of the price, what is the, I guess, the pricing factor related to those remaining rights, and it's roughly in keeping with that price point.
And Daniel, how many people would you have to sign up to that tier to break even?
I can't say I've done a full break even cost analysis on it, but I have done some analysis on like willingness to pay, and so we ask sports fans what they're willing to pay roughly for a kind of aggregated sports offer. And so I did run some numbers on, at different price points, what does the revenue and subscriptions curve look like for this? What's the price maximizing, the profit revenue maximizing price point, excuse me. And it comes out at roughly around that level. So I elaborated it in a couple of different ways to justify that price point.
Nice.
Yeah, it just seems like to me like there's some pretty high brands in here, whether that's NBA, UFC, at least international brands. And to me, it just seems like if they saw their programming being sort of put out there for $24, I don't know if they would be too keen on that, because you're diluting the value of their brand potentially in other places where they get a premium. So I don't know. I think you could raise the price more because there is such an abundance of content. That's my personal opinion.
Yeah, it's a fair point. I think NBA League Pass is priced at around $14.99 in the UK, just as a kind of rough point for that.
Yeah.
Right.
But then if you take the price of Now Sports as a standalone, so Sky's OTT platform, the non-discounted price for that is $34.99 a month, and then that includes some football, some not NBA, that's on TNT. But so that's the kind of going price for one of these services, and then if you want to access everything, that brings it to over £80. So I feel like I've been trying to apply reasonable discounts to remove what is the huge driver in most cases, being the football rights. So particularly the Premier League and the Champions League. So I've kind of tried to scale it in 2 or 3 different ways to reach that price point.
Nice. There would be ads in this, or there wouldn't be ads?
Sorry?
Would there be ads in this? So would I be subjected to ads, pre-roll, mid-roll?
Yeah. So as well. Yeah. So that is how these other services typically work. So they're kind of an extension of the broadcast channel in most respects, or the other services such as Now and TNT. They're kind of the streaming version. And so there would be pre and mid-roll ads.
Yeah, that's more money coming their way. Okay, cool, nice. Moving on to our next. Well, Peter, fantastic. Someone is criticizing the fact that you don't have an accent in the chat.
That's good.
Someone we both know really
helpful.
well.
Yeah.
Okay, the floor is yours. Go for it.
Yeah. So hey, everybody. I really think the best bundle of all these examples today will be the sports betting bundle, and I think there are a lot of fans out there that would pay a premium to have a low latency betting channel that you could basically watch on a big screen, not just in your sports book and mobile packages. And I think there would be enough folks that would love, we probably have small ads, but just display ads, but nothing that would ruin the experience. So going through it, we look at it as a new rights package encompassing betting, daily fantasy, low latency video, working with all the sports books, and basically, enabling all that to happen and integrate with your favorite sports book. We believe that would bring a lot more viewers, a selected amount of viewers that are high value viewers, to engage longer with the telecast. The NFL did some really nice experiences with YouTube TV this year around integrating your fantasy picks directly into the broadcast, so creating a personalization for you. It would be a great opportunity for the leagues to basically get a better understanding of how their consumers wager, what are their favorite teams. This bundle would share that data with the leagues that would participate, and from the sports books. And it just unlocks an incredible amounts of new revenue. Sports books would continue to pay their branding and marketing, but there could be a new integration fee where we could post odds. We could allow you to see your wallet in the experience and then bet accordingly. And that would be in concert with the league IP. So it'd be a separate sports betting bundle that we would authenticate based on age. And again, it wouldn't be shown just on a small mobile phone, but on a large 65, 85-inch TV set. You're already seeing this interest in sports books. Genius has got a great product called Bet Vision, where they're allowing you to watch NFL games on a mobile sportsbook app. The numbers are very, very strong, where that's been a very successful product, where fans are asking for the ability to bet while they're watching programming. And I think you can tier this up, anywhere from $300 to $400 a year for that particular sports fan that wants that unique, experience. NBC and their new NBA deal that they'll start next year, they've already asked and got permission from the NBA to include betting and odds in their feed. So this is something that's inevitably going to happen. And I think there is enough of a group of bettors out there that want to move away from the traditional sports book and have it all encompassing and integrated while they're watching. And I think they pay a very, very high premium to get access and to be able to personalize their experience the way they want to watch, and the bets they want to make. And you could include potentially watching with influencers that can help you make the correct wager during the game. So I think there's a bundle to be had on a premium level. If you go to the next slide, these are examples of, basically what they would look like, where it could be the new NBA League Pass Premium. So it's the highest value, $300 to $400 a year with low latency, no streaming ads. You can authenticate with your favorite book. You can place wagers on micro betting and traditional bets. And this could be a new revenue stream, a new way to engage NBA audiences that just wanted this exclusive experience around sports wagering. Next slide, you can see quick bets happening as well in the States. Micro betting has become very, very popular. Our friends at DraftKings emulated that by buying Simple Bet, where fans want low latency video if they can make bets in real time around different actions in the game. Next slide is DFS, daily fantasy, which is very popular in the States, especially in states where there is no online gambling. So you could do things in Texas and California where you would have a premium bundle exclusively for those states that integrated DFS pick'em games, again, creating engagement, creating communities, and the ability for spending more time. And the last slide, like I indicated before, they're seeing success, the NFL, where people are integrating their fantasy picks into their NFL games on Sunday on YouTube TV. So it's moving in this direction. We just think there is a marketplace that could basically enable a special OTT platform that works across all devices to enable fans to engage and place wagers. And that revenue that would be made would be shared back with the leagues. It would lower the cost of acquisition for a lot of the sports books that are paying anywhere from £1,000 to £1,500 to acquire users. And we think it's a win-win scenario for that selected group of people that want to have a little more low latency and be able to make wagers on IP from very popular leagues.
As the non-techie in this group, the first thing that comes to mind is why low latency in that scenario? Why is it
Yeah, it's a great
important?
question. So low latency, depending on how you're watching streaming video, it could be, in some cases, it could be anywhere from 10 to 20 seconds delayed from real time, what's happening on the pitch. Most data feeds that are aggregated to show you odds are in real time. So if you can sync the video with the odds, that what you're seeing on the screen is in fact congruent to the data that you're being offered to make a wager, you'll get more people to bet. And so the Dolbys of the world who recently bought the Theo player, Phoenix, other companies are coming up with low latency video solutions.
Okay.
And the business model is they feel they'll generate more revenue with the cost of providing low latency video because of things like betting, where fans just want to see more synchronous between the sports odds data and the video itself.
Super interesting. So it's kind of the bedrock, right? Otherwise, it doesn't work. If there's that lag essentially between what you're watching and what you're betting on. But every year during the NFL or key events, there's always that discussion in our industry about, is it needed? And you seem to be hearing everyone saying, no, low latency, we don't really need it. The ROI is not there. There's no business case. So what you're saying is that's the betting piece would be one element to actually prove that business case. Correct?
Yeah, and it's already being proven in sports books. So more sports books, particularly Genius and their Bet Vision solution, is low latency. So what they're proving is more people make wagers in a sports book app because it is low latency. And they basically provide that so that they can place more bets because it's in sync with the bets that are being placed on the screen. So it's being validated really in the sportsbook arena. In those environments, you can't blow up the signal. You can't put it on a TV. The leagues aren't necessarily making revenue per bet. So we think there's just a larger audience that would prefer to go into an OTT experience, really be at home, be able to bet, potentially through one screen or a two-screen experience.
Okay, cool. Nice. Guys, do you want to comment? Carlo, maybe?
I shouldn't say that because he's my opponent today, but it's really good. It's a really good bundle. In a world where to keep increasing the ARPU, the revenue per subscribers, the past 20 years, the goal was to keep adding content any way you could, by bundling, buying more content, that was the case in sports. I guess we're nearing the end of that. There's really no room to grow in that sense. And I think one of the only way to keep growing the revenue per subscribers is to offer new experiences. And obviously betting is a huge driver in that regard. Plus, as Peter said, there's a lot of technology out there, whether it's connecting the betting, the interactivity to the rights owner and so on. The low latency honestly can only work if all those technologies are being bundled together as well. So I kind of like the idea, but don't vote for Peter.
So it's not just a bundle of content and experiences; it's also a bundle of technology. In terms of price point, is it more expensive for the end consumer?
I think you have to put it at a premium. I think if you take out traditional advertisements, which I would do, and you make it sort of a clean experience that you're going into a VIP experience, that basically provides you with the ability to place wagers in a low latency, and there's no going out and hitting an ad server and not, sort of making the experience. There's possible opportunities to put interactive overlays to get information about injuries or information about last matchups. There's some really cool companies, and Venue does some predictive engines to help people, understand what is the matchup, where should I place my bet. I think you can also create a lot of wonderful communities with people watching individual events in a game, but they all have the same wager. And so that's a new community where everybody may be waiting together to see if LeBron James actually does hit 20 points in the first quarter. So you can start to create, low latency, multiple rooms. You could have 100 rooms of 100 different types of bets where people are in there together as communities, but it's at a high premium, right? You're not sort of giving it away. And I think that audience would pay for that exclusivity. If we remove the commercials, created the low latency, had the ability to bring in expertise and influencers. I was just in Vegas last week, and like most cities, it's completely built on betting. And continue with sports tourism. So there is a finite audience that's willing to pay a premium to be associated with the ability to wager on sports. And then a lot of the revenue generated could easily be given back, to organizations about responsible, gambling, et cetera, et cetera. So for me, I think you're creating an exclusive area, you're age protected, you're geo protected, but I think it's a VIP area where people would go ahead and do this. And I think you'd get a lot of people, and the leagues would generate a lot of revenue this way.
I have a question for Pete more than a comment on the bundle. I have to prefix that by saying that I'm not a gambler, so I normally speak about things where I have deep expertise, or allegedly deep expertise. I've always heard about this thing of the real gambler don't care about the sport, and the real fan see gambling as a collateral. Is it true or no? Because and the next question is this for the real gamblers or for the one that likes sport and want to gamble a bit?
I think it's for the sports fan first, who may want to gamble or does gamble. So I think that's key. I think it's a sports fan first, who for a lot of sports books, they're spending a lot of extraneous amount of money for the cost of acquisition, and they're not hitting the fan, because what you want eventually to do is take the casual fan and make them a casual bettor. So if you had a premium experience where they knew they could integrate with any book, they could see their wallet, they would be in a safe environment to make this wager, I think they'd be willing, to try it. I think you're 100% right. Most books make their money on the whales, on the ones that bet a bunch. And I think there are a lot of different gamblers out there that subsidize a lot of the books. And I think this also is a hybrid where it would be, also something for them as well. So I think it's both. It's basically for the casual sports fan that's kind of wanted to wander, but has a premium experience, that might have celebrities watch with you, that might have influencers watch with you. And then also for, the traditional sort of really good whale or better that wants an experience where they want low latency, they want it premium, they want it to work on the big screen. They want to see it work on the big screen and have an advantage accordingly.
Yeah, the only comment, not to be always too nice tonight, is it's more a product than a bundle, but I think it's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think in a bundle, I think the bundle, what I mean is you'd have to bundle all the sports to be participatory, and then you'd have to bundle all the sports books. So I think the sports books would pay for competition to basically want to get the consumer, and then bundle all the different sports at a low latency equation. That it does cost money for low latency, but again, I think you can charge such a premium, and the revenues generated from every bet placed or the cost of acquisition would completely bring new revenue to the leagues that they're currently not getting now. And so that's why I think they would be attractive to go ahead and do this.
Cool. Okay, Sébastien, you're up. Go for it.
Thank you. I must say my slides don't look as good as Daniel's and Peter, but it's because I've got a killer bundle. I didn't feel the need to put up
It doesn't
great
have to be
slides. And my bundle is youth sports bundle. Why is that? You know what? I've got a 14-year-old kid playing basketball, and I've spent the last few years watching hundreds of hours of under 13, under 14, under 15, under 16 basketball games, to the point where I'm literally spending hours just browsing on YouTube, trying to find games to watch. And that's the thing. I think there's a huge potential that is in most cases fully untapped, at least in Europe. We've seen experiences with that in the US, obviously with Overtime, and in South Africa with super sports schools. But in most cases in Europe, it's literally untapped in terms of college sports, university sports, under 9 to under 18 club competition, and also the international competition. Obviously, FIBA is doing a great job offering all of its international competition, including the under 16, under 17 Euro and World Cup and so on. But that's not the case for every league and federation. So in my youth sport bundle, I would offer, mostly team sports because we know how to produce that at a very low cost, like football, basketball, handball, which is very popular, obviously, in some countries in Europe, including France, volleyball, rugby, obviously. Some individual sports, obviously, golf is a bit trickier to produce, but we've seen some interesting stuff happening the last few years, tennis, swimming, and athletics. So all those sports could be bundled, in the same territory, like France, for example, but you could do a pan-European youth sports bundle as well, encompassing most of the major territories as well to, I should say, have a wider fan base, which would be easier to scale long term. So now you're going to ask me, obviously, how do we make money with this? And we can move to the next slide. So let's make money. My bundle would be quite cheap compared to the ones that we've seen before. I would put a price tag at 1.99 euros per month along with your sports license. So, let's say you pay your license. It's usually, I don't know, 300, 400 euros per year. Then you add a few euros, and then you can have your monthly subscription for up to 2 streams to watch your own game, your other friends' games, and so on. And then you can price it at a bit of a higher price at $3.99 per month without a license for, let's say, the grandparents or people living in another city and so on. And then you could add to that a $4.99 package per month to get your personalized highlight package. Most of the kids and parents would be really happy and willing to pay a lot of money to get their own highlight package. And obviously with automation, you can do that rather easily. And I haven't put that on that slide, but you could charge a premium for like Scout, for example, that would need to access all the data coming from the feed and also all the highlights package. I'm sure many people in the US, considering the level of French basketball, for example, these days, would be very happy to be able to have a sort of huge database with all the games, all the players, and they could just, pick and watch. Obviously, a few advantages in that bundle is that you don't have any media rights in most cases. Obviously, I've wrote a lot about the issue with media rights these days. Obviously, we live in the center of the hurricane in France in terms of that. But it's getting a bit tougher, to make money by acquiring media rights these days. So obviously, in that case, no media rights. Obviously, the goal would be to, give back, you would give back a service by installing camera with data. It will allow the coach to do, video analysis to get data and so on. So it would help also the growing of the game and the growing of players in every territory and in every sport. Obviously, one of the advantages is that you can pretty much in all sports now rely on fully automated production. The cost keeps getting lower for those types of tools. You can basically, put one thing into one gym. It's going to produce all the games happening in the same gym with all the data, the graphics. It's going to stream to your platform. You pretty much don't have anything to do. So you can do that. Obviously, the targeted advertising is a huge added bonus into that because we're targeting, some of the toughest population to target. We're talking younger demographics, really hard to target these days. And obviously, many people, I guess, would be very happy to be able to talk to those demographics. Captive audience, as I've demonstrated, parents, kids watching their own game, their friends' game. The issue with sports today is that we tend to have a lot of casual fans browsing through content, being very much, between Netflix and the NFL, between, a movie on Amazon and a game of League One. Here we have an audience where basically the base of the audience is only hardcore fans, people that are going to be willing to pay and stay and watch the games. And obviously, the interesting part is that you can rely also on mostly free and viral marketing, as we've seen with the example of Overtime in the US. I can tell you, just in France, we have just in France and just for basketball, for example, we have more than a dozen dedicated, social media outlet producing, games here and there and summaries of games happening, just in the under 15, under 16, under 17 category, which is kind of amazing to think of. But obviously, they are only, they are only accessing a very small part of the content that could be available. And if you can make that content somewhat available to them, they're going to basically promote your content and promote your offering. And obviously, as I mentioned already, the younger demographic, it's to the point where many sports executives are saying that basically live sports is somewhat lost because of those younger demographic. I don't believe that. I think they can be monetized, and I think they can be monetized as long as you're offering something that is much closer to them, which means watching their friends, watching, parents watching their kids, kids sharing, their highlights to social media outlets and so on. And I think, again, not something that is quite expensive as professional sports, but with that, you can create basically an ecosystem that can rely on itself only to grow.
I'm convinced
Cool.
this
Sorry,
very much
Marion.
sounds like my life on Saturdays, watching my son playing football. And actually, for the last few years, we had this one dad who was spending the entire game, filming. And then, he was cutting and pasting, and then he was sending on our team WhatsApp, the highlights of the goals or the nice saves, etc. So I would add a community component on top of maybe social media, fanatics who could, super serve your bundle. I would add a community feel to it with some user-generated content.
So just quickly, I wanted to say, I'm that dad for my 9 years old.
Yeah.
With this little camera,
We all
I'm
do
doing
that,
the
yeah.
video.
You're that.
The-
Yeah, exactly. So
One
that's
thing
really
I
cool.
wanted to add, sorry, on this is, I think that, so I know there is a company doing some with a media group doing something similar so it's a good idea, and I think it's already working in South Africa.
Yeah.
I won't mention the company, but so it makes a lot of sense, this one. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's being validated all over the world. CBC just launched a very similar high school package. I think you're 100% right, Sebastian. People are looking for a low cost aggregation of content, and if you can leverage that with fandoms of families that cycle through, right? My daughters have already done this, long gone, but then the next ones are up. Your families are up, and you're going through this, and there'll be families behind. So you have a continuum of sort of sports fans and parents, right, that are going to keep coming through. I think the only other thing I would suggest is just monetization, on a localized level. Maybe there's a way, depending on the audience size, it's the local car dealership, it's the local restaurant that allows sort of more community to be around, the viewing experience and how that could be helpful to the communities that are watching, for sure. But yeah, I think it's being validated. I just didn't know. Sorry, Carlo.
No, my fault.
I just didn't know that this was just as popular, in Europe as well, where this sort of everybody has kids and it's youth sports and it's so wonderfully popular that, everybody, I think out of COVID, that was a huge spike in pulling this up, right? Because parents couldn't go to gymnasiums to watch their kid play, but they could tune in to a platform and make that happen.
Yeah, I have the impression, because I see similar offering without video at that level, price level, you may go to $7.99 even, because again, it's your kid. Wouldn't you not pay $3? I don't know, but
Probably.
I would play with the price. Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Basically, the example that you mentioned, Carlo, in South Africa, it's basically it's free. it's free access, and then it's financed by advertising, and then by the type of highlights that you can personalize. So I think I was going already beyond that by adding a few subscription, because I feel that if you're a parent, adding like €2 per month, or I don't know, 15, 20 euros per year, it's really nothing on the top of the license. But yeah, I mean, you could probably go a bit further than that. And the one thing I can add also is that it's a perfect bundle with like Daniel's bundle, for example. I think it has a
look
good
at this guy trying to tag along on the other. I see what you're doing, teaming up. No, but you're right. I think actually this is something you could put on top of professional sports bundle. Okay, want to move to Carlo, guys. It feels like we're gonna go over time, but this is
hopefully not. I'll be short. So
okay.
I have a lot of respect for what everybody has done until now. So imagine this is it. I'm trying to do this. I don't know if you see it. Very Apple-like idea. So I'm going like super stupid. My brain, I think, works like an LLM, and it's not a compliment, because LLM, I'm based on transformers, which are super simple. So I somehow always been fascinated by super simple idea, because I've always I kind of involved in things that were more sophisticated, right? And then someone comes with a super simple idea, and I loved it. And a lot of attention, really looking not from the B2B side, but looking from the fans. And one thing that we never figure out, even I cannot mention too many clients, but with a client that had a lot of games at the same time, how to price a club subscription, how to price a single match. It's super simple. This is still valid for this idea. It's super difficult to price these things. On the other end, someone told me the other day in one of my Guy with the Scarf or Retention Zone podcasts, people will pay for live. Everything else, honestly, do they really want to pay for that? Agree or disagree? So my little brain took these two things, put it together, and say, why don't I focus on a model? So it's more a model than a bundle, and saying, okay, it's super simple. It's a subscription where you can select the tier. It's either 1, 3, 5, or 7 matches per month. Okay, of assuming, imagine the leagues that are available, whatever makes sense. I think it can be, again, it's possibly a stupid idea, but in the end, how many live matches will people really watch every month? And if we assume that social media has all the other content, or you can put a bit of highlights if you want, and obviously the match will be either live, VOD, etc. That's it. So the appeal, I think, is very, very. So it's again going from this to something like that. Super simple, right? You need to select. Maybe you start with 3, because I think you start with 3. Not 1 seems too small, and then you go either to 5 or not, and maybe next month you can move. The idea is that super simple. There's nothing to understand. Okay, I have this option, the other option. I think I didn't write it, but I think it's one device, because it's you watching with your family or alone or with your friends. And at the end, you need to decide. So there is a bit of, okay, I have 3 matches. Which one do I select? It becomes part of a decision making. And I think at the end, it should help you make it very affordable, because I'm sure you'll try to watch the 3 matches, right? Or the 5 matches. Next. In the end, I really try to design something for the user. So, okay, if I can choose, maybe in Italy, if you're watching Serie A, I just want to watch my club. That's not available, okay? So, from very good reason, maybe on the business side. On the other end, it can be competitive, because it's not discussing how you bundle things. It's completely different. It can even be on top of something existing, by the way. DAZN could do it as an alternative with all the pricing issues that they will have. And to be honest, if you are 1-3, you're possibly a casual watcher. Sometimes you have people at home. You want to have this flexibility. 7, maybe I'm not sure how diehard you are, but yeah, 7 matches. I don't know how many of you have watched a full 7 matches this month, to be honest, right? And the idea is that I think both in terms of loyalty and also the fact that you're engaged, it becomes kind of maybe you raise a bit to 5 when you know you have more time, etc. So there is a kind of, I don't want to call it gamification, but you're playing a bit with this money that you're spending, right? And it's very clear, you pay for something. It's different from pay-per-view, right? Which has this fact of deciding to do it, like even for movies. Now there is a friction. In this case, there is less friction. But I'm sure this is maybe impossible business-wise to do. And also the naming is difficult because I thought, okay, it's cool. 1357, it's prime numbers. I think the name is already taken, unfortunately. So I don't know. I'm fucked up with the name and the pricing. That's it. Very stupid.
A bit of a class pass, huh? Right? Do you know ClassPass? This subscription to go to the gym. You know, you have a number of credits every month.
Yeah, but nobody's go to the gym. You know, there's even a Friends episode where they try not to buy the gym subscription and because nobody goes. But yes, maybe yes.
Well, I quite like that idea. I like the flexibility. I like it's a bit of a credit approach. Actually, when we spoke about this, someone tried this, you know, in mainstream entertainment on the world of the Netflixes of the world a couple of years ago. I can't remember the company it went under, but the challenge is if the flexibility is here, whose game, you know, as part of, you know, the sports organization, because if you're playing flexibility, but there's not much enticing, and that's what happened with these guys, right? I think the system ended up being too complicated or maybe the product wasn't on par with the ambition. And also they only managed to attract, you know, tier 2 and tier 3 streaming services, so small niche services who really needed that extra, you know, visibility, etc. And then it didn't find its audience, but I still like the concept, so kudos.
The only question I would ask is, how do you build a business model where you have such a fluctuation?
Yeah, that's true.
Subscription fees, like it's like, well, this month it's 3 games that Pete wants, and then he's changed his mind again, and now he wants 5, and then 7. How do you figure out?
Yeah.
How do you figure that out? How do you kind of sort of say, you know, or do you think the volume is so great that you'll have 3, 5, 7, the flexibility will increase the volume, so the volume will basically net out at an average of 4 games per month?
You know that. So not a perfect answer, but you know that people are already talking about the subscription surfers. You know, the one that are, okay, let's finish this series on Prime, so no, maybe not Prime, but on this one, and then we go out because that's the other series that we want to. Oh, and it's the Super Bowl, so get NFL Game Pass, and so it's playing a bit with that. People are getting when they can, when the subscription are really open, they're going in and out, I think.
Yeah, I think you're right. That level of uncertainty is what streaming services are living with already with the serial churner, the serial returner. I think, it's just another. I mean, what you're doing here is you're giving them, you know, more. Will you be more flexibility? Will you be rewarded, or will you see even more churn and retention challenges than the others?
But I think it's a possibly flawed business idea, but I saw something where the user may say, it's not too bad. Then can you make it work business-wise? Maybe not. But again, if we forget too much what the user want, then we as we see, 100%. We go in trouble.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah, I think I really like it from the user perspective, as you've just said. One thing that came to my mind was potential pushback from clubs within the leagues. So where the Premier League sells their rights to Sky, and then Sky shows every team a certain number of times across the season. The more popular teams get shown more often. So, you know, Man United and Liverpool are going to get shown more often than the teams towards the bottom of the table. But if somebody now has the choice to only subscribe to that specific match or things like that, then the league might start getting pushback from those teams towards the bottom who aren't getting picked by anywhere near enough people to generate the same portion of rights that they would get as a guarantee from the league.
Yeah,
absolutely. But again, I said, realistically, if it ever makes sense, it's an add-on. It's not the only way. It's another way. That's my initial thought.
Yeah, to reach maybe beyond the hardcore football or whatever, you know, fan who's okay to pay, right? But reach that, you know, casual piece of folks who are maybe unwilling to pay. Okay, cool. So now, guys, it's almost time, and I'm gonna be cheeky, but actually, when I saw these guys doing this, I was keen to throw my hat into the game. So if we could go to the next slide, I have my own bundle that I'm bringing to you guys. So very briefly, yes, the demand for sports is huge. Little borders, over 2/3 of consumers actually follow a sport they love, on a regular basis, here defined as, what they've done within the last 30 days. And yet, when you take a look at who's taking an actual premium subscription to watch sports, you're looking at, 21%. If you're looking at engaged fan, 29%. So are we reaching that glass ceiling? Where can we go look for, additional growth, additional opportunities? Next slide. Well, when you're looking at how this is coming from Altman Solomon, they released it actually this week. And what you're seeing is that the demand for live is actually, well, the time spent watching live content is actually getting crept up by highlights when you're looking at the under 45-year-old demo, right? So to the point you were making, not everyone has time to watch and make the most of that expensive subscription. We were talking with Danielle about that 80 pounds per month to be spent. Well, then, why not just like skip live events entirely and focus on watching highlights and clips, because you can do that whenever you want. And in the end, maybe you're just interested in the results only. Next slide. And so who could be the answer to that? The sports creators. I think we needed to have a creator-led, a YouTube-led answer to this question on what's the best sports bundle. When you're looking at YouTuber like Celine, she's launched a year ago only. She has more subs on YouTube than FIFA, who's been on the platform since day one. You look at Jesser, who's initially was only doing, YouTube basketball videos, but now is growing to other sports. He has over 22 million subs, almost just as much as what the NBA has. And so my bundle today, next slide, please, is actually a Dude Perfect sports bundle. So these guys, they have 60 million subs. They're focused on free content on YouTube, but they also have their own app. Within that app, they're bringing their content plus the content of other creators. It's a very safe environment. They're doing more and more things around sports. They had Steph Curry, last week. They spent, half an hour with him. I watched it. I'm a big NBA fan, just like Sébastien. But these guys already made the move to premium. They have an offer called Dude Perfect Plus. If you look on YouTube, they have 1.5 million subs on it already. So what I'm seeing is, these guys going, multi-vertical. They love golf, put a lot of different sports in terms of content, highlights, tons of new formats like what they're doing right now. A community feel, watch parties, quizzes, so many things. And then a few live events here and there. Doesn't have to be professional. So, and all of this for the price of $4.99 a month, $50 a year. I think it's a steal. And when you look at the way younger audiences are engaging with sports, to the point that Sébastien was making, I think they don't need to spend 25 to 50. Let's just spend $5 a month with folks like that. That's it for today. Any question, guys?
I like it.
There's a company in the States called the Creator Sports Network, and they're doing the same thing. I think the thing they're running into is the rights that the leagues are going to charge in order for this platform to happen. They have to keep it at a most favored nation status, meaning the same price that NBC, ESPN, that have alternate revenue streams to bring in. They got to keep it at that same value, or at the end of the day, it's just not going to work. So I don't think they want people to go somewhere else where it's a cheaper cost, where they should be going to ESPN Plus, where they're paying the premium. So that would be, in my opinion, the only issue. And then the last question I would just ask is, do we all think one day video highlights in some sports might be more valuable than live rights. And I think that's, you know, we don't know. We'll see. I don't.
We don't know. I don't think the answer will be the same. You know, globally, it's going to vary in on the demo, right? If you look at, we don't need to go back. People will send the deck, but when you look at the data from the survey, it's fascinating to see the gap, right, in terms of the time spent. It's almost on par, you know, live versus highlights, and for the over 50, it's live, you know, no doubt about it. So that younger audience are they gonna change their usages and become the 50 years old of today, or are they gonna take, you know, their existing way of, you know, dabbling between live and highlights? And in that case, I'd be surprised to see, you know, sports price rights still, you know, going up, you know, forever and ever again. But it will be important. Like, you know, I came with my gear from the Olympics, and like I had never been. And I mean, that live experience, even on TV, was just like unparalleled. So I think it's just gonna, like everything, we're not gonna watch the Netflix boxing game live, you know, maybe 10 years from now. We'll watch the highlights, and that will be good enough. But for some sports and some events, I still think live is, you know, here, 100%. Okay, nice. So, folks, you know, in the Q&A, you have a mini poll here. You know, you can go check it out, and you can name your winner. You know, go for it. I don't know if I'll be able to have the results live like I did last time, but perhaps that's for the best, because actually last time, ooh, so far we have. Yeah, we have one vote, guys. You got to keep at it. And oh, okay. So we have Peter, Sebastian. Come on, come on, come on. You know, it's only a few minutes. It's a webinar on sports, so we had to go over time. We had to. Come on, who do you want to see win? So far, Sebastian is leading. I love it. I love it. Okay, come on, guys.
Pete is going to ask for a recount.
No. Well, actually,
that's what we do in the US.
Yeah.
We always do recounts. We always do recounts.
You know what happened last time? That was kind of insane.
Unless you win.
Yeah, so last time the winner won. It was very close between two. And then, you know, at some point in time, I had to call the winner. Like, we wouldn't stay on, you know, for forever and ever. But someone who was working in the same team as one of the debater looked up at the results and said that the guy won by one, only one. So, okay, we have, yeah, some people are being shy. Guys, you know, go for it. In the meantime, I'm gonna vote for my bundle, and I think it's gonna be Sebastian. I think, you know, it's the mom in me. I don't know, but I would definitely buy this. Whereas, you know, I don't have any sports packages today. My husband has the NBA. I wouldn't pay a premium. Sorry, Peter, to bet. I hate it. I hate betting. I hope my kids don't do it. When I'm seeing ads of, you know, betting in between games, it's driving me nuts. So yeah, it's gonna be Sebastian. How about you guys? Do you wanna chime in and say who's your winner?
I vote for you, Marion. I have to return the favor, but no, I like the fact that you can build. Actually, to go to Pete's point, I don't even think that at some point you need, you know, current rights. I think we've shown that you can build stuff like the Kings League, you know, from the ground up, working with creators, and I think that has a huge potential to be an insane disruptor for the world of sports. So I kind of like your idea of bundling that together.
Nice. Okay, cool. Daniel.
I would buy Sebastian, but I would vote for Pete.
Okay, you buy Sebastian, but you vote for Pete. Okay, so you love that interactivity piece. Okay, cool. Peter, who are you?
You know, I think if the tech is good enough where I can do snackable buying of live games, I'm going to stick with Carlo, because I just think you're 100% right. I can't watch every game, But if it's for a price that's easy and it works, where it's just boom, 99 cents or $1 and I can watch the whole game, that's really interesting to me as well. So I like the snackability of live content and being able to watch the games when I want to, but at a price that is affordable.
Cool.
I think I agree from the user's perspective. From my perspective, what would I buy? It would probably be the 135, the Prime Sports alternative, the non-Prime Sports, in terms of the title. That's probably the one I would actually buy. I like the interactivity and all that stuff, and I think that's the way it's going with Pete's offer. The one thing that I veer away from a little bit is just, I think similar to you, Marion, with the gambling side, where just in the UK, it's a kind of slightly different cultural shift at the moment, where front of shirt sponsorship is being phased out for gambling companies, and there's it's kind of going towards that pressure of there needs to be less advertising around it. And
But see, I think that's what I would solve, right? There would be one place where you go and you would never see that advertising in other places. And then the revenue that we would basically do is we pay school teachers more money. So I think if you can aggregate it in one place where you just let them all hang out like an island or like Las Vegas, you go there, you have fun with stays in Vegas, happen in Vegas.
But surely it still has to be advertised during the sports matches themselves, no?
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
terms of the sponsorships and pitch side and whatnot.
Nice. Okay, guys. So if we're looking at only the audience, then Sebastian's winning. But if we add the fact that Pete and Daniel liked Carlos' bundle, then we got a tie, guys. That's how it is. That's how it is.
I concede. But that's also a good idea, but I also concede.
You guys are too nice. Well, actually, someone left, and because he knew all of us except Daniel, he said, "I'm voting for Daniel. I can't vote for any of the other guys, otherwise they're going to be mad at me."
I got the pity vote.
Yeah. His name is Windsor. He's a cool dude. He's a cool dude. Anyway, guys,
he's a nice guy.
He's a really nice guy, and he's doing great stuff in sports. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for your time today. That's it for us. There's going to be, more events coming your way. 2024 is ending. There's not going to be a debate in December. Too much going on. I'm prepping for so many new cool things in 2025. So hopefully I'll see you next time. And, for anyone who wasn't here, or didn't stay the whole 9 yards, you'll get the deck. I'll make sure of that, and you'll be able to watch this thing on YouTube because that's where it's happening. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.
Hey,
Cheers, guys.
thanks.
Cheers. Thank you so
Bye-bye.
much.
Bye-bye.